Think we're just about ready. So let's go ahead and open up in a word of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this morning as a church. We thank you for the message and the challenge to live our lives with hope. And we pray as we go about this meeting here, Lord, that would be carried out in that spirit of hope as well. I pray for our church community. A lot of things were challenging to that. People not able to be here. We weren't able to. A lot of times our plans had to change and flex. But God has been faithful, and just want to talk a little bit just about the things I've learned in the process. So I think one of the biggest things, especially at the beginning of COVID, et cetera, was just the fact that grief and going through grief and the process of grieving is actually a really good thing. We had plans, we had things we wanted to accomplish, and a lot of that just fell through, right? And to realize that in grief, as you Americans don't necessarily let themselves grieve very well. We tend to self-medicate ourselves with addictions and distractions, lifestyle of disciple making, and that was really cool to see that growth continue even during COVID. And then obviously we want to live on mission, engaging others, right? So just like we talked about in the sermon, engaging others, praying, and then living wisely and speaking with others. And so that slowing down process just means, hey, don't get caught up in too much busyness. Keep your life flexible and able to reach out and love people as you're able. I love talking to Craig sometimes, and he's out there. Even during work, he flexes a little bit and talks with people and gets stuff done, but not on the clock, right, Craig? He's like, leave that alone. 15-minute breaks, that's right. But the question, who's your one, is so important, right? It's like, who can you be focused in on? And so overall, the two things we want to focus on this year, again, in that slow process of making disciples, is prayer. We want to focus on prayer, and we want to focus on community, just spending some time together. And so a couple of things that Chris will get into a little bit more deeply is we want to spend some time, especially this summer, in community. We realize with COVID, it's still a question of doing it indoors, and so we're going to have our Wednesday night that are happening, opportunities out in parks for the summer. Just a great way. So we've worked with Cindy, and she's got a shelter reserved for like 8 weeks over the summer. You can just come out, bring your kids, hang out. If it's not too, it's not raining, like downpouring or something like that, we got the shelter. We can just hang out, maybe pray a little bit, but just be able to play and fellowship together and encourage one another. Yeah, all ages, yeah. So it's not just for young people, it's really for everyone in our church to come to that. But he'll talk about that in more detail. And then prayer. The prayer emphasis, so to speak, is we want to pray for our city, the different aspects of our city, our community, and our campus. We have a great position to be in to pray for these things. And one of the ways that we're just kind of thinking about how to do this. Hopefully you've gotten out on more walks or things. So my vision for this is that we would pray for every house in our community. So I'm not saying we put something on every door. I'm just saying we pray for every house. And so one of the ways that I'd like to do that is that we'd set up a map of Ames with the roads that are there. And then as you maybe take a walk in your neighborhood, you'd call into the office and say, hey, I prayed for these streets, And we prayed for the houses on those streets, that people would know God and love God, and that we have opportunities, whether through our church or other gospel preaching churches in the community, to be able to love them and share the gospel with them, that they grow in that knowledge. And so as you're taking walks, and maybe you're normally taking walks, but you just go the same route, maybe you'd say, you know what, this week we're going to go over here, and we're going to walk through this neighborhood, and we're going to pray for this neighborhood, and then just call into the church office, and over, like once a month, maybe we'll pop up that city map, and we'll say, hey, these are the areas that are covered. If you'd like to cover some of the areas, get in touch with the office. But I figure that's something that anyone can do, but especially our older people can do, is they can pray for our city and just walk around praying for the homes. Maybe if you're going to Iowa State, you can pray for the dorms. But just to pray for the people and the homes of our community, and just spend some time doing that together. Again, one of the blessings I mentioned earlier, in the sermon, the prayer boost. This has just been 5 or 6 ladies, including just kind of meeting together, praying together a lot. There's a couple, I know Don Taylor who joined, and then my dad have also been a part of that, maybe a couple others in the mix, but they've just been faithfully praying via Zoom together. It's been a huge blessing to me, even though I haven't always been able to be a part of it. And if you'd like to jump in on that, again, the link is there. Just spend some time in prayer. It's what's nice about in some ways, it's like, okay, why didn't we do this before? Because in some ways, rather than driving, a half an hour, 20 minutes out here to church, and then spending a half an hour praying and driving 20 minutes back and wasting all that time, you can just jump online, pray together for 20, 30 minutes, and then that's it. You don't have to do anything else. And it's actually really a convenient way of praying and being in prayer together. And it's not that we don't want to be together, it's just sometimes that added flexibility makes a huge difference. And so we want to encourage you to get involved in prayer, either through Prayer Boost or through these things. But just specifically in your lives, can you be praying for our city, our community, and our campus? And we'll be, again, giving you maybe more tools throughout the year to be able to do that effectively. And that's just one of the other things we want to emphasize. And then just a couple of things, just staff progress. Obviously, from my perspective, it's a huge blessing to have Pastor Chris and Alicia here. It took them a while to get their home settled. I think they didn't officially move in until the middle of November into their home. But God has just been gracious to us as a church to allow them to come during COVID. And then he's been taking some classes at Faith along with Jed. They've both been taking some classes at Faith to can work on their degrees. He's been help to me just in kind of organizing a few things, managing some people situations, making sure that we're staying on task. And he's if you don't know, he's into jiu-jitsu, and he's trying to make weight for a tournament coming up. But it's also been a great chance for him. He's been reaching out to some people through jiu-jitsu, as well as we've gotten to some discussions with the Pamela Grocer there, just as he's a Muslim, but a chance to talk about the gospel with him. And so he's just if you haven't, I realize not every one of you have been able to get to know Chris, but if you haven't yet, he loves God, he loves people, and he wants to see us reach our community for Christ, and it's a huge blessing that way to have him here. He's going to talk in a minute about the things that he's been involved in further. Jed has been kind of we call it pastoral resident at the beginning of the year, kind of trying to figure out, okay, how do we help him take the next step? And so we've been focusing with him on growing some skills in youth ministry, leading youth ministry, and we'll get into some of the more details of that. But he's also been taking classes, and one of the big things Jed's had to work through this year is just with the worship team. Some people were available, and then they weren't available, and so, obviously with COVID, things were happening, and so he's just done a lot of work behind the scenes, making sure our live stream has excellence to it. He has a lot more technical knowledge about the sound system, etc., than I did, and he was able to just provide a great help in that, to making sure that people online, it actually was a pleasant experience. Maybe some of you noticed, we all had probably maybe low standards initially, but your standards quickly rise, right, as to what you're willing to listen to over time on the live stream. And Jed cared about that a lot. He wanted to make sure that people didn't just be miserable listening to church online. And so it was good of him to make sure that happens. So just before I turn it over to Pastor Chris and he talks about his section of the ministries, I just want to take some time and thank different people in our church for their service over this year. It's been a difficult year. And so just talking about nursery, for instance, it's been a kind of a conundrum of a year because we have way more babies this year than we've had in a long time, which is a great problem to have, but then the challenge of staffing it, and so that's been huge. And then the faithful teaching of our kids, again, challenges. Sometimes people weren't available. People weren't necessarily comfortable. We lost some of our teachers who were trying to protect the people in their network so they kind of stepped out of teaching temporarily. And the teachers of our children's ministry, our Wednesday night workers wow, to flex as much as they did, and to like, okay, how do we do this in regards to ministry, etc. They really flexed a lot, but pulled it off, and it's been a blessing to be here on Wednesday nights and see the kids learning and happy and growing. I've got to say at least a touch on this, because the live stream was we'd started it before COVID, but it was a huge upgrade over the process. And the guys who behind the scenes still make it happen are Tad and Braden. Okay, Tad, my son, and Braden Teed. They faithfully get up there, make sure everything works most of the time. If it's not working, it's usually not their fault. But they have to scramble to figure out what to do. And so we just appreciate their hard work behind the scenes. And even the people helping in Lighthouse with food or whatever, it's just been a great help in a lot of different ways. And obviously the worship team and those who, shuffling in and out depending on who's available, et cetera, has been a huge, huge help. So if you have helped in any way in some position of service with the church over this year, could you just please stand? We just want to thank you for the work you did. Come on, stand up. Basically, it should be everybody here, basically. Come on. Yeah. Thanks for your help on making everything happen. And I just want to add something, because a live stream is really not a fun live stream if nobody's commenting on it. So for those of you who commented on a live stream, we actually really appreciate that. You don't know how much we appreciate that. So thanks for participating and joining in on live stream. We really appreciate it a lot. I'll turn it over to Chris.
That's funny. But it's true. It gives us some feedback on things. So yeah, good. Yeah, Will came in, I think it was this week, and he talked about, just thinking about the season that we're in, plowing and sowing and reaping. And I was like, I think I've been here for 9 months, and I've just pretty much been plowing, right? And so many of you have been willing to kind of plow alongside, right? And really get some things going off the ground, and so I really appreciate that. A couple things to update you on, if we could go to the next slide up there, guys, about ministry updates. So I just want to go through various ministries here and talk about different things. Our groups, just to update you, so many of you have gotten involved in our community groups, and those are continuing to go well, and we just want to continue to encourage that, because it's been an awesome, I know it's outside of Sunday morning, Sunday night, which is when my group meets, is the kind of the highlight of our week. So we have a lot of kids, and it gets a little crazy at times, and we have to cut stuff off at sometimes. But we have a wonderful group, a wonderful blend. We have young families. We got the elder statesman and Bill over here. He's our we call him Cap now. He's the captain. And so it's just been really, really great just to have that, I think, a picture of biblical community. And so continue to do that. Continue to get involved. And if you haven't, I just really encourage you, as Will said, don't let all this other stuff, as stuff kind of returns to whatever normal is going to be now, crowd in to that space. Give that space to gathering with others in our church body. Our core groups, again, have been just doing awesome. So we have at least 20 core groups meeting now, almost pretty evenly split between men and women. So we have those groups available, and we'll be coming up here kind of towards the end of the summer of some of those groups replicating. So if you've not got on board yet, just be aware of that and let me know you're interested, and I'll let you know as soon as we have somebody that says, hey, I want to be a part of a core group. Right away, I start trying to make connections for that. So we're really excited about that. And I know there's groups that are meeting that I don't even have in that count. And it's really neat. Like, I've been in town and I've walked into places and seen like some of our groups meeting, in a coffee shop or some restaurant or here at church in the mornings. We got a group of guys that comes in, I think every Thursday morning, and just so they're here early to see their cars out in the parking lot when I get here, which I get here pretty early. It's just been neat to see. So continue to encourage that. Our Lighthouse students have been involved in that as well. Our youth and children's ministries, I'll kind of do these together. So they, as Will shared, Jed's been involved in that. And we've gotten middle school and high school, both are in Sunday school classes generally after the service. And Wednesday night, we've been doing the Gospel Project. I think overall has received really great feedback in terms of the content and helping our volunteers out, and the children are enjoying it. So that's been great. And we're going to, if you still have a bulletin with you, kind of try to write out what we're going to be doing. It's a little bit confusing, but here at the end of April, our middle school and high school are going to continue to meet. They've had tons of momentum, tons of guests. The kids are inviting people. New people are coming every week. I mean, it's been really neat. If you don't come up here on Wednesdays at all, you should just come one time before the end of the year and hang out and see the fellowship that happens, because we have a lot of students coming, and they've been faithful to meet in groups and to share biblical truth, and so we're excited about that. But they're going to continue to meet through the end of school in May, and our fifth and under, who've also been meeting on Wednesday nights doing the Gospel Project, that is going to end here at the end of April. But we realize that middle school and high school are still going, so we still want those families to come and participate with those fifth and under kids as they're able, and we'll be playing outside. If it's inclement weather or something like that, we'll figure something out in here with some popcorn and just a good biblical movie or something to watch for those kids, just to allow that ministry to continue to happen on Wednesday nights. And then starting in June, we will be looking at shifting all of our Wednesday night ministry to the city parks. So we just have a rotation of city parks that we're going to go to each week, and we have a slide that we'll be putting out here in the next couple of weeks just to let you know what those are. And Cindy's done an awesome job at locking down the shelters for us at those places. So that'll be great, and you can come and you can bring food. You don't have to bring food. Just come hang out. If you have young kids, we've picked the shelters that are closest to the playgrounds at those parks, so it should be a really great time and a great opportunity for all of our church to come together as you're able on a Wednesday night and just fellowship together. Let me see. So children's volunteers, something to update you on about our children's ministry. Really would ask you to pray and consider getting involved. We have a lot of opportunity. I use the word opportunity carefully and strategically. So we have a need/opportunity for about 16 additional people to get involved serving in our children's ministry, and that's Sunday morning during the service and then during the ABF time. That sounds like a lot, and you're right. That ministry needs some help, and again, I use the word opportunity because I really look at that's what it is. It's family ministry. Even though you might be changing diapers and wiping butts, you can do that for the glory of God, and you can do it allowing a parent to come in here and to sit and be equipped so that when they get home, they can equip that child and raise that child in the way that they should walk. So. Sometimes in the middle of it, I've been there. I know it's hard to think. Why am I doing this? But it is ministry, and they're the future of our church, right? And so we want to make sure we're investing in them. So if you think you might be able to serve just one Sunday a month on a rotation, we're not going to throw you in there alone. There's a mentorship process. You'll learn from others. You'll always have another adult or some additional helpers in there with you. So it's pretty easy. We just need folks that are willing to put their yes on the table. So I'd ask you to consider doing that here this morning and think about it. And if that's you, you can contact me, Sabrina, Nadia, Michelle, any one of us, and we will get you going on that. The next item there, I'm going to start moving faster here, is assimilation. So I've been really thinking through, what are the steps when we have a guest enter our church to getting them assimilated, right, to getting them as a part of the church. And so you guys have heard us talk about Discover Crossroad and done that a couple of times. I'm going to shift that a little bit and make it a little more welcoming and friendly and do that more on a monthly basis, but only about 20 minutes, more of a meet and greet style, right? Come meet the staff, learn about what our church is all about in about 20 minutes. And then we're going to be trying to get them involved in something I guess we're going to call Starting Point. And Pastor Mike down at Soteria kind of helped me anyway, put some legs to this. I was thinking about something, and I didn't know exactly what to do, and their church does this, and I said, I'm going to do that, and he's like, that's fine, copy it. So we're going to do that. And so we just want to get these people kind of connected into a group that'll meet for a couple of weeks, and we'll go over, a biblical summary of the gospel from Genesis to Revelation in those couple of weeks, while at the same time sharing about our membership process and what membership in our church looks like and those expectations and things like that. And I think overall that'll be a good thing. So if you start seeing those things, you'll know what that is, and I may even rope you in to help me with it. All right? Dave Knutson. I want Dave to come and talk about Crosswalk. If you've not seen the new Crosswalk website, it looks pretty good. So check that out, and Dave's been doing great work there with the counseling ministry, so he's going to share about Crosswalk and then about something about our ABFs and what we've been working on there.
Yeah, that website, really appreciate Chris's help on that. As you guys know, I'm not so technology inclined. In fact, for a while there, it wasn't even up and running and didn't even know it. But God still has been blessing. It's been amazing. It's just all to His glory. I got it. My goodness, it's just been so. I just jotted. Chris just told me before this that I was supposed to talk, so I'm just gonna. Who knows what's going to come out of my mouth? But hopefully it's encouraging. That's all I can. I jotted down 5 words: challenging, sobering, rewarding, encouraging, enlightening. Okay, that's kind of the way it's been. I'm as you guys know, I think most of you do, is I'm ACBC type of thing, which is Association of Certified Biblical Counselors. I am certified in that way, and so I do get some people that are referred to me from ACBC, and a lot of that's been on Zoom this year. But when the neat thing about it is giving me opportunity to get some other people involved in our church and starting the training process with some different ones. I like to get them involved when they first start out, these individuals, and it's been really neat to see how that's worked. Also because of COVID, which I'm thankful for, to be honest with you, is that the affiliation, the place where I got a lot of my training was in Lafayette, and they did it online this year. And it gave opportunity for some people to do it that couldn't have gone. They couldn't have got it done. So it's been really, really encouraging. So there's 4 people that did that this spring, and super encouraging to see that. There's also, there's been just a lot of Zoom counseling, which it is what it is. I don't like it. I get headaches from being on the computer for more than half an hour, and these are like an hour and a half sessions. And, also it's just been neat. Seen some come to our church. It's more, I've been encouraging ones as they counsel, if it's possible, while they're being counseled, to come to church here. Even if they're involved in another church elsewhere, just because I want to be able to have them hear what I hear and be able to talk about some things and build on things in regards to it as well. Some of the counseling aspects have turned out and branched out into a discipling mode too, and that's been really neat, just to get some others involved in regard to that too. And some have been, and I can't obviously go into any detail at all, but there's been some marital counseling and some premarital counseling and all that type of thing as well. But it's just been very, very encouraging. If anybody is interested in that, I certainly am willing to work through some things and help you get going on it or whatever. But I tell you, it has been so rewarding. I'm just going to read a verse in that, and then I'll just get to the ABF real quick. I can't talk quite as fast as Chris. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Just teasing. I know we got a lot to do. We don't want to stay here all day here. I'm not. Wow. This is supposed to be fast when you do it on the. Why can't I get there? Okay. Jeremiah 17. This is something that I really keep focused on as far as the counseling is concerned. Blessed is the man, this is verse 7 of 17. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. He is like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green. It is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. And then right after that, we all know this next verse. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? I, the Lord, search the heart and test the mind to give every man according to his ways, according to his fruit of his deeds. And, that's really a lot of what I do. I can't understand a person's heart. I can't understand my own heart. But God desires to have myself and others that are being trained in what to come alongside people and ask questions, care about people, have compassion on people, and listen to people, and all those types of things, and to see God come through over and over again with His Scripture, with the Word of God. And it's extremely, extremely encouraging to see that and see God do some amazing things. That's mainly what I'll say about the crosswalk aspect. The ABFs, you know, this last year, obviously COVID's been challenging, and we really felt like it was important to have not a whole lot of them, because of COVID, some that had been teaching have not been able to come, and so it kind of dwindled a little bit. So we felt like it was more important to be very intentional, and I realized it didn't hit everybody's need. It wasn't like a broad type of thing, but it's been really encouraging, you know, even just having one ABF for the moment anyways, just to be able to be very intentional about some things. And behind the scenes, there's been a lot of encouraging things, and people have, I've seen some different things that have been connecting with individuals, and it's been really neat. Not going in any detail there, it's all for the sake of confidentiality, but it's been super, super encouraging to see people's hearts changing in regards to that. Obviously, in the summer, we're probably going to continue in that mode of having one ABF and working towards getting other teachers involved and whatnot too. So we're working on that, and as we slowly get back into some normalcy here, we'll probably get back a little bit more, I think, into working with Chris on this. That's why I want to make sure he's nodding his head, or I'm going to be in trouble here. Oh, man. I said too much. All right. Let's see if there's anything else. No, that is about it. I think I'm done. Thank you.
Again, I want to reiterate, too, that Dave's just been a great encouragement this year and a great help. And his love for people and his compassionate approach to people has been really good, just to bring people along in the process. So next slide is Lighthouse International, starting with just the Chinese International Fellowship. Obviously, different cultures, one of the things we're kind of working on is having a cultural conversation about the different cultures and how they responded through this, just because it helps us understand one another better. But Asians overall have been through several pandemics, not in the sense of worldwide, but in the Asia area, and so they've reacted a lot more quickly and a lot more locked down scenario. And so most of our Asian population in our church and in our community has hardly left their houses in a lot of respects, just because of that's how they've culturally handled it in so many different ways. And so we've had a lot of Zoom meetings that way. They haven't met in person, and we've had some, because when you don't meet in person, there are certain miscommunications that happen. We did have some challenges communication-wise because of that, and so at least one family has kind of moved on from the ministry. But we're planning on restarting in the fall, hopefully. Again, this is all tentative because they're being very careful about vaccines and getting together and just making sure that things are safe, and which is fine. We're not opposed to that at all. We just want to encourage and bless them. My dad's been working with them on that process, and we're excited to see, in some ways, light at the end of the tunnel in this process. Lighthouse-wise, and both includes both international and American students, we've been just blessed to have Nick Ball working.
Really intentionally build into a lot of the people that the Lord has given us as stewards. So we talked a few weeks ago, and Chris has looked at what he's been gifted, and he's going to start investing in the college ministries to work with some leaders. I'll still help, obviously. Carol and I will, and make our home available, make ourselves available as needed to help carry the load of teaching or mentoring or whatever we can do. But we're going to make that transition this coming year. The wonderful news is that there's a lot of families here. When we identified what does our church look like, it looks like a family. It's just so unique in the way that we are multi-generational, people at different stages, and how those people at different stages interact with one another. So we have several families who have already stepped up, and even before COVID happened, there were several other families, so hopefully there'll be even more. We're looking at trying to grow the ministry to a point where we can have a lot more relational. Students who come here will have a relational experience with the church as they go through college, being in people's homes and being mentored. So, anything else?
Yeah, give it to Bill there. And thank you, Nick. And I just want to reiterate what Will said. It's hard to express just the gratitude and just what Nick has put in to Lighthouse these last 2 semesters. And so I'm very, very, very grateful for him. I remember when I interviewed, when I did the first in-person interview here, Nick wasn't on the search committee, but before we left town, Will was like, I want to take you to talk to this guy. And so we went there, and I was kind of like, why am I going here? And now I understand just the incredible wisdom and the wonderful friend that he is to our staff and other church leaders, and so I'm extremely grateful for him, and grateful for the opportunity that we have with Lighthouse. We have Sushma, who's been working super hard as an intern, and we're going to talk more about that, and the senior leadership that has been there, that's about to move on, and the way that they have kind of guided things alongside of Nick as the best they could throughout the situation. So I'm excited. Will's gonna come and talk here in a second just about some shifts that we've made in ministry that'll allow me to spend a little more time at Lighthouse. And really, Nick was, because of his job, night was his primary time to be over there, particularly Thursday night. Whereas I have some more availability to be over there during the day. And so we thought that would be a really good opportunity just to continue to build relationships with our college students that are going to be coming back and develop that family community, right? When we think about our church, I mean, this is something I said, and it was really neat when I shared this with Nick, because he's like, we were pretty much on the same page in what we've been thinking before we even talked. Something that stood out to me about this church compared to other churches in the area, other ministries, was we have a very unique family feel to this church body. And so I think that's something that we can really offer college students who are away from home, away from families. I was talking with an international guy at Jiu-Jitsu, as Will mentioned, and we just got in a conversation, kind of spiritual, and I asked him, I said, I bet you've never been invited to an American home. And he's lived in America for 18 years. And he's like, no, I haven't. Never been into an American home. And I think that's something we need to offer students, international students in particular. And so, I'm excited about that, and excited about getting together with the leadership that's going to be taking over of Lighthouse, and just moving forward and reaching students and growing deeper in our discipleship together.
So staff updates in that sense, we're kind of moved to, this is what happened last year, and now we're thinking about, okay, this is what we think should happen this year in that sense of, so like we mentioned here briefly, in the process, it's a challenge because with COVID, you can't, in a sense, get the church together, have some discussion really, and make some plans because not everybody can be here. And so, but at the same time, we still need to make some plans for the fall. And so we're kind of doing this dual thing where we're going to say this is what our plan is for next year, with the understanding of we're going to take some time, hopefully by August, our next business meeting, COVID really is almost over, if not over, and everybody's back and we're able to meet together and have some discussions. So we've had to make some plans, kind of saying this is what we think is best, but at the same time feeling like, okay, we want to have you guys involved in some discussions about what should happen next. So just to make that clear. So for instance, we've had Chris as a kind of a discipleship pastor, and this next year he's going to still be in that role, but we've hired Michelle McKim to be the children's ministry director and take care of kind of youth, kind of the elementary on down, as far as kind of organizing, staffing, just kind of helping all of those ministries run. So she's kind of in charge of, to be clear, she's in charge of the children's church, Sunday school, kind of nursery, preschool. She's going to be in charge of that area. That'll take some burden off of Chris. He just talked about the need for 16 people to help out with that. Well, actually, that's actually going to be Michelle's job ultimately to help make that happen. Obviously, we're helping in that process. It's not her alone. But she's been meeting with us the last couple weeks, and we delight in her wisdom and in her quiet way that she just will put out some good thoughts and good, so she's coming in part-time. Thank you. Chris wanted me to clarify. She's coming in part-time to help out with that, about 15 hours a week. And so that's going to help Chris shift over to spending that 15 hours or so with college students a lot more, and that'll help that to happen. So I know Michelle's sitting over here and we're announcing it, but we've really enjoyed already having her there, and she's obviously already been providing a lot of leadership in this area. So just to kind of help you understand some of the things. So like Sabrina, who's been in charge of a nursery for the past several years, she now has sons who are sitting in the auditorium with Jordan, and she's like, I really should be there to help Jordan out. You kind of get it, right? And so she's kind of stepping back from being in charge of Sunday mornings in the nursery. She's still taking work doing Wednesdays, but Michelle's kind of taking over the whole thing in that sense. And she's working with our existing leaders there just to make sure we can staff and run things and do it well. She's a great communicator. If you're a parent, you get her emails. She does a great job with that. And so just if you have questions or things, you just know that she's involved in the process of running that and planning things for that. We have the big question we kind of have as leadership overall is like, okay, we've hired Pastor Chris, and we have a pastoral resident that's Jed in youth, in worship, and we've kind of been training him for some youth. The big question we do have is like, what should our staff mix be? What roles should they have? And really, we don't want to answer that on our own. Does that make sense? So we want you guys involved in that discussion. And so we've been kind of prepping Jed to be a kind of a youth and music, but the question is, what do we need as a church? And one of the questions we have, in a sense, is should we feel like overall worship should be a big part of the discussion. As far as say that correctly, job description for the next pastor that we want to hire. But the question is, should that be in college? Should we say maybe it's a college worship pastor, or should it be a youth and worship pastor, or some other role combination? We're just not sure. And we want your input, your prayer about this. So for this next year, Jed's going to be kind of, we've been saying this, but he's going to, Dave Hyman's been really working well with taking that, but he's working alongside of Dave and probably kind of taking over some of what Dave's doing to do kind of youth and worship next year and kind of run that ministry. That'll prep him to for whatever's next for him, whether it's we could look at him as a worship and youth pastor, or we could look at someone else. We've been upfront with him about that, depending on roles, etc. But he's going to kind of grow into that role some more. We're also getting an intern from Faith over the summer, a Faith graduate, just a guy from Faith just graduated, and he's looking for an internship over the summer. And so we are available. We're interested in that. Chris loves interns, and so he's like, yeah, I can use this guy. So he's going to be helping out, learning a little bit from Dave, just some counseling ministry and discipleship ministry. And this guy he's kind of connected with Baptist Church Planters and John Jenks, who was here a few weeks ago, right? And they're mentoring him into being a church planter. And he was looking for a church that he could be involved in over the summer before he goes to seminary at Faith. And so we think it's going to work out for him to show up here. So a couple of needs we have in this transition. We need you to be praying and thinking about, okay, yeah, what do we need as a church? How can we best impact our community for Christ? And we'll be having some conversations about that. Pastor Chris and Alicia are going to be helping out with Lighthouse on Thursday nights, and just for good measure, David and Pamela Speed are too. So we need some grandparents who would love to spend about 2 hours with kids on on a Thursday night. Alicia's kids go to bed early, so like you'd have time to just sit and read for the most part, unless they wake up. I'm not sure about David and Pamela's kids and when their bedtime is, but all you got to do is show up and love some kids for a couple hours, and then you can give them back to their parents. You know what I mean? So if you would like to do that on Thursday nights and free up them to do some ministry on Thursday nights, they would really appreciate that, and we would appreciate that as well. Also, the intern that we're having is raising some support overall to do this, but John was saying, hey, maybe if we work out, have somebody who could provide some, if you've got a room, they could stay in that room. If he could stay in that room over the summer, we would love to facilitate that and provide him some cheap housing. So if you are interested in providing some cheap housing to an intern over the summer, just let us know that as well. Those are just some needs that we have. Again, we're trying to guide and direct just some, like we're kind of in this, I feel like we're in this middle ground, like we haven't really had a chance to have a conversation and make some decisions, but we've had to make some decisions just to prepare for next year. So that's where we're at, and we want to continue to plan that. So just be thinking about those things. As the summer rolls around, we'll probably be announcing some times for conversations, maybe putting some committees together to talk about these things and make some decisions once August rolls around. But just keep that in mind, be praying about that as we get into the summer. That's what I've got so far. Just, okay, so we're going to move to membership, kind of some things we're going to move to kind of budgeting things, etc. on that. We're going to start with membership. So Sally's going to come with removals and additions to the membership for the church.
Ready? Sally will do the memberships for us.
Hope you can hear through the mask. Well, we're not really doing new members here because we've been doing them as we went along. I'm just going to read a list of people who have joined in the last several months. Jess and Tim Neubauer, Daniel Winter, Noah Schultz, Clarissa Hoffman, Juliana McKim, Don Taylor, and Kelly Christensen. And then Noah and Carlissa were also baptized. We've already voted on that. That's just a reminder of some people that we've had join, so we're really glad for that. Excuse me. We've got 3 families that are leaving or have joined other churches. Scott and Marty Owen, Jack, Brenda, Claudia, Esther Guam, and Ying Lee, and Tim and Vi Hall. So we need to vote on them.
Is there a motion for those? We don't need to vote on the additions. So is there a motion for those dismissals for those names? Motion by Tate, second by Dave. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Sally, on those? Okay. I did want to say it's been a lot of fun this year watching Pastor Chris and Pastor Will get together, and it's truly an honor to have a pastor that actually lives out what he preaches. But if you take Tad's perspective, and his pastor preaches about slowing down, Tad does 2 cars, Will does 1. I'm not sure Tad thinks it's a good idea, but we do like what you practice, what you preach. So, task force updates. So the first one, they didn't give me the clicker, they don't trust me with it. The missions task force. So you're gonna.
This covers several things, so I'm going to step in for Nate Teed overall. You can see you can see the missions task force right now is Nate Teed, George Hatfield, Arvin Fell, Sally Logston, Krista, Lauren, Mallory, and Judy, and then me primarily, who's been there for that. Although Pastor Chris and I have bounced back and forth on that right now, depending on who's available. So just to start with the budget review, I want to kind of help you see a few things through the budget. And again, a budget is an example of priorities, things you think are important, and also what's happening. It reflects what's going on in the situation. So if you see, it's this, if you can't tell, it's this page here in your packet. It says missionaries, CBC, sending church at the top, and then there's a list of missionaries, not all of which we are sending church for. but we've got a few recommendations here, a few things that are going on. I want to start with the ones under missionaries. You see on that we're dropping a few of them. You see, for instance, David and Annette Haig, Don and Betty Ross, Mark and Jennifer Telasky, and Stephen and Jan Wivel. So this just reflects the fact that they have, most of them, except for one, have been in the retirement process over the last several years, and we've been very careful to support them through that process because we feel like it's hard sometimes for missionaries. Just so you understand, in the history of missions, there was a time when they sent up missionaries and said, don't worry about your retirement, God will provide for you, just do the work, okay? And then, or the different missionaries says different things. Some mission agencies would say, no, raise your support to provide for your retirement and have that part of your package of support. And so different missionaries are in different scenarios as far as their retirement package ability goes. And so that is challenging. I mean, just from our perspective, right, the Callies were a part of our church, retired in a sense from ministry in Africa, and then were a part of our ministry for at least 13 years, right, faithfully serving. Part of the reason was because they didn't have all their finances to just retire, but at the same time, they had a huge heart, right? They're a huge blessing to us as a church in a lot of different ways. So David and Annette Haig are kind of in that boat. They've been retired for a few years, and they're still doing some ministry, but we've just felt like it was the right time to end that and shift some of those funds to other missionaries. Don and Betty Ross is only $25 a month, but they were still doing film ministry to an extent, but we also felt it was the right time. And then Steve and Jan Wivel, also in the same boat for retirement. So we just felt those are the right times to do those. And then Mark and Jennifer Telasky, for those who've been here for a while, you remember Mark Telasky was a part of our church at one point. He was part of a church planting ministry in Maryland, and it just kind of fell apart, and his church recalled him as a missionary, and so so they ended their support, and that's why we're ending their support, not because they're not worthy of support maybe in the future or whatever, but it's just they're not able to be missionaries at this point, and they're trying to figure out what to do next. And so you can pray for them, but that's why we're ending their support. So with that, we want to increase a few of the agencies. For instance, the association, the group, the National Association we're part of, really got hit hard this year with COVID and the expenses, and so we felt like moving the agencies up in support overall, just to help out with some of the COVID issues that they had. And then, if you notice, we've got Sushma Madanu under missionaries working at CBC. Sushma's feeling called into mission service. She stood up with the college students and said, I'm feeling called to this. It was really cool to see that as part of their retreat. And also, she has been faithfully serving here for a while, learning the ropes. And just, obviously, she's got a great story. We love her story about how God's called her here in Ames, and she's grown in Christ here. She's working on an Master of Divinity at Faith. And so we are interested in helping her finish that Master of Divinity, as well as get to the field eventually. And we don't know if that means she gets married and serves with whoever her husband is, or she goes back to India. We're not sure what that looks like. So right now she's planning on going back to India and serving there somehow. We're still trying to work out the details. But part of that process, right, is for us, if we send her as a missionary, there's some legal things as far as like her visa situation goes, and ultimately how all that works. And so we are trying to be responsible and get ahead of the curve on that, so that we can help her in the best way that we can if we believe God is calling her as a missionary. So what we're planning on doing this year, you see that increase for $834 to
Hyman, they're new to the committee. They would be new to the committee. They're just new additions to the committee. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. I'm going to take a little executive privilege here. And if I can have the slide go, I think it's the next to last slide, we're going ahead and vote for deacons now. That'll allow the counting to take place while the other reports are given, and that way we won't have to wait till whenever to get those results. So if I could get that last slide. So you have the deacon nominations up there. There should have been ballots. If you don't have a ballot, please let us know and we get you one. Jed Royce, Dave Speed, and Nate Teed will be our counters. So if you've got your ballot, you can kind of fold it and send it to the middle, and those guys will pick it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So where'd they all go? There's Jed. Where's Mr. Speed? Jed, Dave Speed, and Jared. Oh, we've got a finance major, so this will be official. All right. So Jared, Jed Royce, and Nate Teague. If you got a ballot and it hasn't been picked up, hold it up. Vote for 8 out of 9. Vote for 8 out of 9.
How we doing?
Any other ballots? Hold them up high. Mr. Teed will get them. Jared will get them. Matt will get them. Jed's still looking. So thank you for the adjustment. We should all be prepared out of 2020. You have to be prepared for change, so it just fits right in, right? Is that all of them? One more in the back. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for counting that. I think we're for the service task force. You got that one, Chris? Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll go back to the service task force here, and again, you can see the personnel there, Ron and Liz Peel, Doc, feel weird saying Ron, Doc and Liz, Lauren, Tim Stearns. We're going to recommend add Tim Nybauer to our team there, and then I'm the primary pastoral staff that's been involved with the service task force. Some updates for you. Several things that we've been able to do this year. HVAC needed some work, needed some upgrades, so we've been able to go through that process. Still would like to, at some point we know we're going to need to manage the system that manages all of our HVAC needs, so that's just coming at some point, maybe this year, maybe not. We're good right now, but we're going to continue to manage that. All the batteries, we found out in the derecho some of our batteries needed replacing, and so we've done that whole process, had a lot of help on it. All the fire extinguishers have been updated and replaced. You may have noticed the women's bathroom over here that Liz and some of the others took the lead on and updated. Some technical stuff, projectors and video equipment and things like that. So we've had to replace some of those, and so we've got new projectors here on the back wall, not this one, but on the back wall in the high school room, and I think we did a good job of trying to figure out where we could move stuff or upgrade one thing, but to upgrade multiple areas, right? So I think we were pretty good stewards with that. And so we updated projectors, video equipment. We had a new camera here to match that camera because there was a difference and it was causing some problems. But we took one of those cameras and put them at Lighthouse so that the Lighthouse live stream could get up and running. So that was helpful. And then we still have some, we upgraded the computer up here that it was old, it needed an upgrade, and the one that was up here was an upgrade to the one that Lighthouse had, so they have that one at this point, and I don't know how long that'll last, but so you can see we tried to move stuff around and be good stewards, and so at the same time we did get some upgrades happening, and there's some more things that we want to do with that, and Lighthouse, in terms of thinking through Lighthouse, some of the needs that building has, we may continue to update you on those throughout the year, make recommendations as the service task force on what needs to happen there. There's some flooring needs we'd like to deal with, but we have to have a certain way we have to deal with it. So a couple other things on here. Those are kind of main updates. Spring cleaning, I want to thank you guys for those of you that came in with your group or whatever it was and helped us out with that. We didn't get everything done, but we didn't think we would get everything done. But that was helpful. Lighthouse already talked about. And then mowing help, Liz kind of manages that, but we do need some folks that that would help us mow. We lost a few, and we need to replace a couple of them. So if that's something that you maybe have some free time to do during the week at all or on the weekend, come and you'll get trained on the lawnmower and all that and how to do that. So I need to make a motion for personnel, right? So I'm going to make a motion that we accept the personnel for the service task force.
Had to wait for the green light. Is there a second for Chris's motion to accept those nominees? Thanks, Dave Knutson. Any questions? No questions. All those in favor say thanks, Dave Knutson. Any questions? No questions.
Side for discipleship, outreach, just those kind of growth mindset of things. And so I just encourage you guys, if you have had extra blessing from whether that's through what am I trying to say there? Stimulus, thank you. If you've had extra blessing through the stimulus money or something, yeah, and you feel so led to give, we'd love that, and just whether that's to the roof or to just our general fund, we'd love to see that. So you can see through the budget. Overall, it's pretty much just there's nothing too unique in there. Just the biggest change was pastoral salaries or stuff as we budget for a full year of that. In addition, you can see the changes that just we already covered on the mission stuff. Kind of one of the biggest things you look at, so we're forecasting about $525,000 of giving next year. That number is kind of the one that you have to kind of think about, hey, what are we predicting? But, I'm encouraged by what we've seen this year, and I believe that we can achieve that next year. I guess questions about the budget proposal? Crickets. That's okay. What's that, Lance? Oh, good. Yep. So, guys, hey, just once more, I would close with just praise for how faithful the giving has been and how awesome that's been. It's just really encouraging to see you guys continue to give faithfully. I believe, Pastor, do you want to give a little bit of the update on the Wayfinder?
Sure.
Kind of that next one?
Yep. So, so part of just kind of thinking through, we've been in the building 20 years. We have some maintenance needs as far as carpet goes, maybe a redesign of a few things. But the biggest thing we were kind of working through is just as people come in the building, sometimes it's confusing as to where to go. It's not very clear. And I get this fairly often when I'm watching new people enter the building. They like walk in 5 steps and pause and look around. And we've been working on that within the service task force, as well as you talk to Scott Thornton, et cetera. And it's like, how do we do this? And some of our design people. And we just kind of we've thrown out several ideas. We've tried several of the ideas over the years, but we've always kind of run into a brick wall as to how it's just nothing working. So Scott Thornton proposed, we should just talk to an architect. And so we talked to an architect, because you can talk to them for free, but you just can't get anything for free. So we talked to them, and they were like, yeah, we can do some things that way as far as setup goes, but also just thinking about your carpet situation, your flow situation, we could help you think through how to update the carpet in a way that's not like one big bill all the time in one spot. We could help you think through just as people move around the building, your signage, how do you help people know where to go, what's going on, all of those things, and so again, talked to the financial task force, and they were like, yeah, let's go ahead and spend some money to help that process. So we engaged Avic Design and Build. It's an architectural firm in town. We're going through the process with them of talking this through. And so we're going to bring some proposals to you guys eventually that then we'd have to spend real money on in that sense to be able to kind of think through, okay, yeah, how do we help the situation in the flow of the building to be better? And how do we maybe think through, again, how to updating this 20-year-old building inside in a way that's manageable and feasible. And so we're just going to go through that process. We're just kind of letting you know this is what's happening so far. And And we're excited about their help in the process, because having an architect kind of really think through the design and make through that will help that whole process come together really well. So anyway, that's where that's at and what's going on. Any questions with that? All right. Thank you very much.
I believe the last thing for me probably is just to present a motion to accept the personnel on the financial task force.
Is that a motion, Mr. Hyman? Yes. Is there a second for Mr. Hyman's motion? Mr. Wilkening? If there's a third in the back, is there any questions? Okay, all those in favor of those people on the financial task force, please say aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. And I think we also need a motion on the budget as well, right? What's that? Yeah, Dave says we should vote on the budget, so, all right. Is there a motion to accept the budget as presented? Motion by Lauren, is there a second? Thank you by George. Any questions for Dave, not for me? If not, all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Dave. The last slide I have is the recorder slide. If you, they don't trust me with the clicker. Those guys guard that. Man, they got a cop between them. The recorders, these are recommended by the Board of Deacons. The board is recommended those. So I entertain a motion to accept these as the recorders for the upcoming year.
Make sure that things happen behind the scenes to get those things donated where they need to get donated and things like that. And so I'm excited about that. I'm thrilled that she's willing to serve in that way, and I'm sure she'll serve in other ways too. She's a great mentor and a ladies' Bible study leader.
And sign papers. But what I'm specifically looking for are table leaders, right? So I've got 3 of 9 table leaders. We're assigned a certain number of tables throughout the community. And those table leaders will then invite 4 other non-believers to this event, right? And then your job as a table leader is simply to go to the event with your 4 friends that you invited, and then follow up with them and help disciple them if they made a decision to share their life with Christ, or if they wanted to recommit their life to Christ. Then your job then becomes a job of discipleship, which I know we've been talking about here. So, like I said, it's the 25th. It's a Wednesday, the 25th of August, so I know it's a ways out, but if you could pray about it and let me know if you're going to be able to make it, then I can chuck you up for one of those seats, right? What else? Yeah, so it's got a pretty good track record of success. About 40% of non-believers that go accept Christ and dedicate their life to Him, and about 20% of believers who are just struggling with their faith that go recommit their lives to Christ. So I think it's got a pretty good track record. You can feel pretty confident that your time is going to be well served. So, any questions on that? Till I run out of seats. So until I get 6 more names, really. Yep. It's August 25th. The 28th is when I kind of need to give a progress report to Perry. We're having a breakfast on the 28th, but I feel confident through prayer and through the church that we'll be able to fill up those seats. Any other questions?
We appreciate Nick taking point on kind of organizing it and making it happen, so really appreciate that. And I think they bought a new house, right? Sometime this soon, so that's